This is a Compaq Presario 1065, and so is that. We'll get into it, but we'll start out here. We can see that this is definitely a 90s looking laptop. It is taupe colored. For whatever reason, this one is missing the badge on the screen that would normally be right about here, but it will tell you that it has an Intel Pentium inside. In fact, it is a Pentium 133 MHz model. I want to say it's a desktop CPU, but I don't really know, so please don't kill me if it's actually a mobile CPU. And we can see it comes with a keyboard, a pretty standard laptop keyboard. It does have the integrated numpad and several special functions. Farther below we see the touchpad, which makes you want to scream half the time you use it because it doesn't like any kind of debris on it. And our media control buttons. Premier sound, it says. I'm going to guess that these are also JBL speakers, even though it does not proclaim them as such, because Compaq really like putting those in their old school laptops that fit roughly this form factor. Up at the top, we need to not forget that it has a integrated microphone, which honestly is not too bad for what I was expecting, but it's not good either. On the side, we can see the access hole for the floppy diskette drive. It is just 1.44 megabytes, and it seems to be very, very prone to failure because it does not work entirely correctly. And also you can see the compact disk drive. No burning capabilities, as such a thing would have set you back probably like $1,000 or maybe even multiple thousands of dollars in 1996. However, it does support, I believe, quad speed. But once again, please don't kill me if it's actually like 6 speed or something like that. You can see that in kind of a weird fashion, the power button is a very light blue, like slightly lighter than baby blue, I would say. And in the center there is this interesting information thing, which has a power on light, a battery light, and then various functions which you will see once we get going. But basically it's just a little tiny LCD that displays various things that are happening. On the other side of the computer, we can see the battery door, which it's a pretty standard lithium battery pack. It sounded like possibly you could get a nickel metal hydride battery pack for this computer. However, mine is lithium, and it does work. It is a replacement battery, but I'm guessing that it's only maybe 3 or 4 years newer than the computer at best, so that's like year 2000. Year 1999 is probably more likely. But the inside is just standard lithium cells, so it would be pretty easy to rebuild it. And we have two, not card bus, but PCMCIA slots, the 16-bit variant, the original, I guess. A hardware volume slider, which is actually very nice to have on this laptop. It also has 3 multimedia ports, like basically what you would see on a normal desktop computer. You have the headphones, or line out, the line in, and then on the rightmost, the microphone input. And then those are just the eject tabs for the PCMCIA slot. And to end the right side, we have a phone jack for plugging into a telephone by the looks of the icon there. And we also have the line jack, which would connect to, your telephone connection. So you could use this for modem-like purposes. And then we move on to the exciting rear. We can see our combination keyboard and mouse PS2 port, which does work with the splitter type thing. A game port, or probably MIDI connector, but it only does have the game controller icon, so maybe not, I don't know. A port replicator connection, although from pictures that I've seen, it's a docking station. I have not seen the exact docking station for this model, but there are several models that seem to use a very, very similar docking station where it plugs into the back. And we've also got a VGA out, just standard DB15 serial, and a parallel printer port. And also your DC input jack, which is rather prone to breaking, as far as I can tell. The one on that pile over there I mentioned, that is in fact broken. In order to show you the insides, rather than take this one apart again and risk breaking something, we'll in fact just move to this one that is already broken, I guess, and already disassembled. Although those are kind of unrelated, at least this time. Here's the screen. It is an 800 by 600 dual twisted passive matrix display, I believe. It's not very good. This one had lines in it. Well, rather, this one always had lines in it, so that's why it's not in use. And one of the hinges, the one that I didn't try to show you first, this one, is broken. I believe the hinges I believe one of the hinges in the other one is broken as well, but it's not totally broken like that. And under the touchpad assembly, there is in fact a bunch of ribbon cables. In fact, a custom ribbon cable by yours truly, because I broke the one that this one had originally. Okay, story time. This is the one that I believe my grandparents bought. Or maybe it was my parents, I don't know, but it was a joint decision. Yeah, they split the usage between each other. You can see the speakers. They're just kind of speakers. I mean, they are actually really good laptop speakers. When you have it upwards of an inch thick laptop, you can get some really nice speakers. Keyboard uses a fairly standard connector, as you can see. This keyboard is just a little more worn. This was the original laptop that my parents or grandparents or both owned. It was bought, I believe, January 1997, if not late 96, but it was not cheap. Laptops were not cheap back then. I'll explain the situation with the other one later, but this is actually the hard drive from the other one. It works fine, but I just wanted the data that was on the first one. It's a 1 gigabyte or so, 1080 megabyte drive, and you can see it uses a really weird but standard ribbon cable. It's in fact I believe you call this a flexible PCB cable. Very annoying, very breakable. But yes, it's a pretty solid hard drive, although slow spinning. I think it's might be 4600 RPM, if not it's like 3800. And here's the CD drive cable. As you can see, it's a little sad looking. And inside you can see our motherboard. In fact, some bonus screws sitting on top of it. But let me zoom out here for maximum viewage. I believe, yes, I can lift this off. And you can see the full motherboard. The so-called soldered 16 megabytes of RAM is present. However, it is not soldered at all. I won't pull it off because it's a mess to get back on, though. It's a bunch of little pins. And you can see that this slot thing is a rather independent unit, and it in fact has a card edge connector down there. And the battery controller is a rather independent unit, but that's a pretty common thing. And this also does the voltage regulation for the laptop, so if you take this out, it will not work because it's an open circuit. And then over in this corner is our extremely tiny heatsink. Oh man, I'm covering my hands with this stuff. Blah. But yes, it's a very, very, very tiny heatsink. And under that you can see our Pentium. I don't think it is an MMX model. 133 megahertz. I believe it's a desktop processor, like I might have said. And then over here we can see the chipset, which is actually just one chip. I don't know where the video is hiding. It should be a separate chip somewhere, but it's Neo Magic. And it might be under here somewhere. You can also see here that it has the documentation for these dip switches. Yes, dip switches. You can see that I've been fooling around maybe because a little plastic film is broken. But yes, this is basically the guts of the laptop. Oh yes, I still have some other parts over here. This is in fact the modem. It is just a Lucent modem. I want to say it's a 33.6. I really doubt it's slower or faster than that. But I do believe this is what you would call a hardware modem rather than a WIN modem. Because it does seem to have a lot of stuff on it, which I assume a hardware modem was probably fairly typical from this era. Oh yep, there's the memory door for the memory slot that's on the bottom of the thing. I believe the maximum for this computer... Dang it, I got my hand on the heatsink again. I believe the maximum for this computer is 16 megabytes installed on the system board, and then 32 megabytes here, so that's 48 megabytes total. You can see that the clips on this one broke, so I just used parts of a binder clip, which works very well. Here is the CD-ROM drive. For whatever reason, this one doesn't close anymore, but it does work. Oh, okay, of course, now it closes. I never did that when I actually tried to use it. But it is a Toshiba 5-volt. It's from November 96, so I suppose that would support my conclusion of this being bought in January of 97, most likely. Although I do believe that this model was available for purchase sometime in 96. It is just a standard, what do you call it, IDC? I don't know, but the laptop version of IDE. Actually, the pins might be slightly closer together, but it's just a scrunched version if it is. Yeah, it's just random spare parts in there, so... Now, I did promise you a working battery. It does work to some degree. We'll see just how much life we can get out of it. But this one was bought on eBay because I figured out that the seller didn't know any better, and it was actually a perfectly working laptop. It was sold as broken. However, it did show to power on, and it said system board failure, which doesn't mean that the system board has failed. It actually means that the battery that keeps the time has failed, which it is rendered rather useless when that happens 99% of the time, because it has severe amnesia without a BIOS battery and will not remember the save settings upon restart, and nor will it boot from them. You know, more modern computers, you have the luxury of it can automatically load defaults, and I assume that's how it gets around the amnesia problem that a lot of older computers had. But we will turn it on. Despite the looks, this is a button. However, it does work as a hardware power switch. Although the laptop is capable of turning itself off. You can see that the screen is not the brightest thing in the world. But we'll try to get into the BIOS here. I do believe I can control the screen brightness from here. I don't know, I guess that's changing, but maximum brightness, I'm sure our battery is not going to last terribly long, but I guess we'll start in the system features area. You can see the time, which is not correct, but we'll worry about that later. And the date, which, let me check, is correct. So that's 1 for 2. And power management, you can see all our power settings. It does do hibernation, as crazy as that sounds. It does hibernation, and it does it quite well, using a utility called pH disk, which may very well be worth a video on its own. And you can get some rather ridiculous hard drive timeouts here, like, let's see, I believe, what is it, page up and page down? Nope. Oh, plus and minus, that's how this one works. But I leave it at 48 seconds, but you can go to 16 seconds, which I think is rather ludicrous. It does support a rather extreme clock throttling program, or some kind of thing, but you can see it'll do maximum throttling, which I have reason to believe is actually quite extreme, and that's what it's set to. But yeah, it also does supply some generic power plans for your ease of use. You can kind of see why the passive matrix displays get their name and how they work, because when I switch screens, you can see stuff kind of fades in and out. But there is no BIOS password. I don't plan to have that here. Yep, there's our battery issue. It'll actually run for well over an hour in a low battery condition. I assume that the cells are just kind of soft and hang at a lower voltage than they're designed to. I don't really have a good background of lithium chemistry, but that's what I surmise. And what I think, I'm not sure if this is rather advanced for the time, but it does claim to support the write protection for the boot sector. I'm not planning on running viruses on here, so I don't really have a use for that. Come on. I didn't hit it the first time. But the boot management, rather basic. You can boot from the diskette drive, which doesn't function, the CD-ROM drive, or the hard drive. You can see in the communications section, we have the settings for the parallel port and whatnot. I could have swore I set that to ECP. Okay, because I believe that, or not EPP, ECP. Okay, I guess that's not a thing, so we will just go with bidirectional. But you can set some modem settings, not useful to me. You might be able to hear it still beeping, but and it also freezes when it beeps, which is kind of annoying. Especially annoying because, you still have an hour of battery life left. But you can see we can enable and disable the floppy controller and also the hard drive controller, although I wouldn't recommend that. It does claim to be local bus IDE, which I suppose I'm not an expert in buses, but I feel like local bus is probably kind of standard for the time. I don't think PCI made its way around yet. But there's also audio settings, which kind of surprisingly has its own entire tab at the top level. But I believe I might have changed stuff, so we'll save changes and hope I didn't make any stupid changes. But yeah, I'll turn it up and hopefully you can catch the BIOS beep. Huh. Normally it doesn't do that. Normally it doesn't hang when you exit the BIOS, so that might not be a good sign. We'll give it the old 3-finger salute. Or not. Okay, well, it survived, so whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if our BIOS settings are lost. No? Okay. You can hear our beeping there. I'll turn that down so you don't have to deal with it. I did not connect the backpack drive. However, this thing is configured to use the backpack drive as, like I said, the floppy disk drive internally is not working. So we'll just go around that for now, and I'll worry about that later. You can see it loaded a special Synaptics touchpad driver, which is also when any external mouse port would be loaded and handed off to. We didn't make it very far before it decided that the battery was low enough to hibernate. But yes, it does do automatic hibernation, which is quite cool. So I will get the charger. This building is actually quite colder, and the battery was not fully charged to begin with, so that might be why it was a shorter life than normal. Yes, here's the charger, also kind of taupe colored, but I believe this one is kind of yellowed. I think it might be a 45 watt adapter. It's 18.6 volts at 2.8 amps, but it's kind of a weird design. I don't know if these are intended to be heat fins or just look like heat fins, or really just fanciness or what, but it does kind of look cool. But yeah, like I said, the power input jack on this one is surprisingly not broken, and if it does break, it's not the end of the world. You just need to prop up the computer while having it plugged in for it to make a connection. Well, rather, you need to prop up the computer by the plug. So maybe not exactly the best solution in the world, but it's how it is. You can see that the charging light actually did turn on, and followed by the power light, and then the plug light. And we will resume to our mid-booting Windows protection error. That doesn't surprise me because, you know, I hibernated when we were booting. However, I've seen stranger things. So we'll go ahead and turn this off, and I might as well take this opportunity to connect the backpack drive, so give me just a moment. Please stand by for an important announcement from the i430VX Quality Control Department. Oh my, what a senseless omission from our video recording department. That guy forgot to review these two CD folders that came with the laptop. What a fool. But the first one is just a generic software folder. It does include an installation guide, which I guess is moderately interesting, and it basically gives a step-by-step instruction guide for the computer basic people, not people who program in BASIC, people who are basic, people who only have basic knowledge of computers. And it includes software support telephone numbers, if any of those software companies still exist. It does come with a Windows 95 companion, which, don't let it fool you, it is actually Windows 95 in its entirety on this disk as well. It just so happens to include a bunch of fun stuff like hover and whatever you call it, what do you call it? Oh yes, the videos. I don't know, I drew a blank there. And of course our games that were included, such as Descent, Destination Saturn, and PGA Tour 96, Compton's Reference Collection, and the Microsoft Entertainment Pack, the 1.44 megabyte floppy diskette that includes the best of entertainment games. I don't think any CDs are missing, but who knows, maybe. But yeah, that's basically it for that. And then of course, we have the Quick Restore folder, which, as this might allude, does include a floppy diskette and a CD. However, it does not include a mouse. That you have to bring your own. If I can get this out of here, it's always a little tricky with one hand. This is the boot disk, because apparently they were not advanced enough to have a bootable CD. Which, I mean, for the time, I guess that's understandable. Oh, jeez. Okay. And also in here, we have the Quick Restore CD, which, unlike later Quick Restore CDs, or at least the later ones that I am familiar with, this is the entire operating system and presumably included software. And there I go, I got it all dirty. Don't let that fool you, that doesn't belong here. and it does include a guide to help you get started with your quick restore journey. At some point, I may make like a part 2 video for this one, where I upgrade the hard drive in the Presario 1065 and then use the quick restore CD to restore it to the factory original image, if you guys would enjoy that. But that is all. Good day. The backpack drive is now plugged in, and I will turn it on. You can see its power light also turns on. We will turn on the computer, and you will see that this time we will not need to press escape to continue. Oh yeah, I guess I can turn the volume up now. There we go. Well, maybe a little louder. I don't know. But it's complaining, but I might as well mention it that this is Windows 95 First Edition. As you can see, it did detect the backpack drive, and it was loaded as Drive D, using a whopping 13.5 kilobytes of memory. But you can see the home base, which we'll see in a moment, it actually starts in the DOS world, which leads me to believe that maybe it used to be a thing like how Packard Bell had the Navigator. But it loads a user environment which is not actually your user environment. Oh man, that doesn't look too pretty on the screen. At least on the camera screen. I don't know if those lines are present. I guess I might as well try to fix that a little bit. Let's see. You can see that it's a rather interesting thing. It is laid out to look moderately like the laptop itself. You can see this, the taupeness and the dark taupe, and then the light grayish tan kind of match what's going on here. So that was actually kind of a neat touch, or at least a neat coincidence. We'll go ahead and log in to my account. If I can find the mouse cursor, where is it? Okay, there it is. And it is actually working correctly. I can't believe how I navigated this thing with such a small cursor, because I don't know, maybe I was just used to it, but it's not fun on a passive matrix screen. You get pointer trails whether you want them or not. Oh yeah, that's right. Windows has updated our clock as a result of the daylight savings time. Okay, I surmise that is closer to being right. However, it's still a good deal of minutes off. Let's see, we are 38. There we go. Yes, we'll just click OK here and proceed into Windows. My extremely bright overhead lights are kinda not helping. I might even go as far as to shut the overhead lights off. You can see our backpack drive is kind of doing stuff over there, or it just was. You will find that to be a theme where you're just kind of browsing and doing stuff, and then this will just randomly kick on and basically hold the computer hostage until it's done doing whatever it's doing. In theory, this should be a Microsoft Best of Entertainment Pack 1 copy. So we'll go ahead and put that in there and allow you to see the screen again. I don't know why this thing wants to be on top, but we'll just close it. Well, I guess first off, we might as well give the A drive another chance. So we'll put this in over here. If I remember correctly, the issue lies in basically the heads. I don't know if they're misaligned or something, but it seems to be an age-related thing. But it should fail in a moment. Yeah. device is not ready. So a pretty generic failure, basically. We'll put it in the backpack drive, which was bought for this very reason. And that, in fact, should read the disk. If it doesn't, that means that the disk is a bit messed up, which one of those disks over there was. Okay, nope, it works. Well, presented a challenge. Open a JPEG. This would definitely be a lot faster on the hard drive, but, you know, it does work. And there's our beautiful image, a photocopy of an original copy of this disc. I guess I'll demonstrate the rather impressive speakers after I make sure that the brightness is up all the way. It does have an on-screen display, and no, the brightness was not. So maybe that's a little more visible. I mean, it hasn't been bad, but it hasn't been good either. So we'll start with Passport. That's always a good one. You can see it does have its own Compaq branded music player. It's not unique to Compaq, as far as I know. It's by, I believe, Voyatra Technologies did it, and they just, I assume Compaq shout out the big bucks for their name to be slapped on it. But yes, it is a very nice sound. Move on to something else. This thing has its own MIDI files that it came with, or at least I expect it came with. But we got a lot of stuff to choose. Trying to remember what they sounded like. This one might have been decent. But you can definitely hear that this thing has quite the amount of bass. This thing can play video. I wouldn't say particularly well because, you know, it's kind of a blur, but I don't think this one's an impressive video, just to warn you, but it is a video. If you did see that, it was skiing. As far as I know, that is like the sample throughout Windows 95 and possibly 3.1, I don't know. But perhaps for something more exciting, we have an AOL tour, which is taking up a whopping 11 megabytes of hard drive space.
Welcome to America Online. In less than 1 minute, we'll show you why AOL is the fastest growing online community. Meet people and make friends all around the country. Join the millions of people who communicate with email. You'll get your very own email address. Surf the internet. It's included. Talk to celebrities at live events. Get the latest news and sports info. Manage your investments. Join clubs. Play games with other members. Check out hundreds of your favorite magazines. Plan trips. Go shopping. Be informed. Be entertained. And just have fun. Try AOL now and get your first 15 hours free.
You know, I have been hearing about this internet stuff. I gotta say, it does sound fascinating. I'll have to check it out sometime. I have no idea what the context or backstory of this video file here is, but it is a video file that is just audio, and well, it says something.
happy computing, and thanks again for buying Compaq.
It just seems like it belongs in something, but not a computer, and more like a 50s movie or something. I don't know. I don't think there's any complex WAV files on here, but this can play a mean CD. Let's see, space. You know, space, having all that sound in it, you know. Definitely able to transmit sound in a vacuum. Few Release played on like a glockenspiel and a guitar of some sort. Yeah, because you can edit MIDI in here, which is kind of cool. Sadly, I did remove a lot of the original stuff with this because it was taking up a lot of space. But we do have some cool stuff, like Full Tilt. This is just the demo version. And I do assume that it came on this computer. But it works reasonably well, except you can hardly see the pinball at times. So, I wouldn't say that this is exactly the best chance of selling the game in terms of a computer. So we'll just go ahead and exit that. You can see it does entice us to buy it, but I'm not quite sold. I hear this new Windows XP apparently comes with the game. These games are legitimate, and it did come on a floppy diskette with the computer. They're just standard best of entertainment games. So this does have a hotkey for the home base, which doesn't immediately log you out. However, if you switch to another account, it will log you out. The home base is a really nice touch for perhaps new users. However, it would be an absolute nightmare for security because just anyone can add a user. They don't need to, I don't think you even need to log in to add a user. And anyone can remove a user too. So that's not very helpful for security. I don't know if it removes the files automatically or not. I don't remember. Let's see. Technical support. I don't remember what the difference between these two options was. I think it just brings you to different areas of the help center. Oh yes, this is kind of the dummy version if I remember correctly. Get a how to contact Compaq, some tools to help diagnose problems, and basically frequently asked questions. But yeah, it's kind of cool, I guess. I don't exactly remember what the tools are. Oh yeah, Compaq diagnostics and all that stuff. So that is kind of cool, but we'll just go back to here. Oh yes, this did come with a version of Scrabble. It was not originally called this. I believe it's Literary Lite. Once again, not the full version. If I remember correctly, you can change this text because it just reads off of a text file. But yes, the funny thing about this is you can have a game that is just a computer, and you can just watch a game happen. I do believe it had multiple music options. That sounds kind of like a standard Windows thing, I think. Yeah, that's the one that it was when we opened it. But yes, I think we've watched enough of this computer play against itself, or play with itself, I guess. Although that doesn't sound right. No! I don't want to play! If I want to quit, why would I want to play again? I believe it's going to open an order form after this closes, which might have some modifications to it. Actually, it doesn't. But yes, this can be kind of interesting. Just very, very cheap games that came on a CD. Mega slots, why not? Mega. I need to bet money.
You got mail.
Yes, I may have updated the sounds a little bit in here. But the music that you hear is original. Okay, well let's cash out because I'm not a gambling person. I guess I have 9,999 credits. There you go. Let's see, the Compaq media stuff does get kind of interesting if I can find it. I don't know why I'm struggling to do so. Maybe they don't have start menu options? I don't know. Are they in the entertainment? Aha! Yes, that's not by default. That I must have put them there. But for example, we have the Midi Maker, which does allow you to edit MIDIs. So I believe this would depend on like a actual MIDI device for creation of MIDI. However, it doesn't stop us from loading something and then like editing it. So for example, we could take a random one and make it no longer be electric piano, but a glockenspiel. And you can definitely hear that it changed. And for an involved game that does work, how about Flight Simulator? This thing will nag you about a CD, but it doesn't outright require one. Also will nag you about color. But yes, this is apparently a Windows 95 exclusive. And yes, it does do time of day. So let's see, I think throttle is going to be page up, although the floppy drive is currently doing its thing. Okay, we'll press OK to ignore. Let's make it not night. Oh yeah, it is kind of just vague times, but they do change with the computer. Oh, well, I didn't notice it until now, but it has exact times right next to it. I think F4 will make it full screen. I guess not. Was it, must have been Alt and Enter then. There we go, that's full screen. But yes, I'm clearly the best at flying a plane, especially when it's blurry. I don't know if this is due to some kind of driver issue, but the computer has never had any idea whatsoever what the battery percentage is. There's really no indication of that other than charged battery, charged meaning just charged to some degree, low battery or critically low battery, as indicated by these, and also the type of beeping. That is basically all I have for you today about this Compaq Presario 1065. It is in rather good condition, as you can see. You can see based on the noises that it actually logs you on as a different user. You don't have to do this to shut down, but you know, you can. You can see that even though you are technically logged on to a user, it does prevent you from just looping around. But yes, it does indeed possess the ability to turn itself off automatically, presuming it shuts down correctly. Which I don't think it did, so there you go. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, and thank you for 100,000 views. Hard to believe that it's already there already. Yes, I know the channel is multiple years old, I think 3, but still, that is fairly fast, I guess. So I will shut it off manually. But there you go. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.